truly believe in the magic.
Hey, Magic fans, and welcome to Penny for Your Thoughts, the podcast of the Orlando Magic UK. This is episode 76, and as always, I am joined by my good friends. First of all, Gary, how you doing, man?
Not too bad, mate, apart from my Darth Vader voice. All good, how are you?
You know full well we've been describing it as your sexy flam. We're increasing, with your voice, mate, we're increasing the female viewership of this.
By 2.
Yeah, we're all good at this end as well, pal. Thank you.
Good.
And G, how are you, my friend? I've got to applaud you on your parenting, I understand.
Yeah. I actually forgot to mention it last week on the pod. We were so busy talking. We went to watch the Cardiff Devils, me and the family. A week Sunday ago, they were playing the Glasgow Clan, victorious 3-1, I might add. But the Devils, bit of a chant going around. Let's go Devils. Both kids join in. Let's go Magic. I was like, yes, they're my kids.
Good parenting.
Parenting the correct way. So, no, I'm good, thank you, mate. Hope you are as well.
Yeah, all good. Mikey, I've just let people know that you are there in the top corner. It's just apparently not paid your electric bills.
Genuine. I just can't sort lighting out in this place. Never mind. I need to stop going for these cheap-ass bulbs, don't I? And get some proper studio lighting. Is that what you're saying? Clearly,
something's wrong there, pal. So how are you, mate?
I'm good. The question is, how's Calamity? Because Calamity's made a return this week.
Just one slight issue where I've almost broke my little toe. It's the right foot is extremely black as I managed to stub my toe on the foot of one of our sofas, and it made me turn the air blue. It was, and it is rather swollen and it is rather black. But there we go. Not to worry.
Did you cry?
Lots, like a baby, mate.
Well, like Joel Embiid and James Harden.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you what. There was less flopping involved with me having smashed my toe than there was with that pair. We will come to that. So anyway, Mikey, you and G met up over the weekend and had a little bit of a sporting competition, bit of time hooping. Tell us, mate.
Hooping? There was only one of us hooping, mate. There was only one of us hooping. Hey?
Here he goes.
You were giving it all. You give it all the big I am all before, and then you just didn't turn up like usual.
About the bowling, I was.
No, mate. This is a basketball podcast. Nobody cares about bowling.
We have to talk about the hoop as well that you were shooting at.
Yeah, right. And I said to G, because it was 1-1, right? G beat me fair and square in bowling after my horrendous start. What was it? 3 balls in the gutter to start.
The first 3, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then.
So you are the Russell Westbrook of bowling.
No, because I got better. Westbrook's getting worse. I did claw it back. I did finish 20 behind you in the end. I got over 100, so that'll do. But
139 to 190.
G kept going. Oh, mate, let's finish this on the air hockey table. I was like, no. Let's finish this on the basketball hoop, mate. And you were like, no. Can't. You already knew you were beaten. You just didn't want to admit it. But when you walk into an arcade in the UK and there's a Magic basketball hoop, how can you just have one go on it?
And what was the one next to you?
Well, yeah, that was a funny story, wasn't it? There was an LA Laker one next to it, which was broken. A bit like their team, really, isn't it?
Tell you, I think Westbrook had been practicing on it, mate. Smashed it with all the bricks he'd been throwing.
I don't know. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. But G owes me that third game.
Yeah, we'll have it. I
believe you will start, mate.
We did.
I can't believe you will start.
The children got tired.
No, you didn't. I kept going. You kept wanting to play air hockey. Every time I was like, right, let's finish this. Let's play air hockey. No, we finish it on the hoop, and you knew you were beaten.
You shied away from the air hockey as well. Go on, Becky, you play him.
I don't care. Air hockey's not my game. Paul's better at air hockey, he tells me.
Like, the reactions aren't what they were when I was younger, but we'll still say, yeah, I'm all right at it. I get over aggressive. That's the problem. Tends to end up hitting it hard, and it flies across the arcade, and quite a few other people are in danger.
The puck or the thing in your hand?
The puck, mate. Never let go of the thing in my hand. For now. Right, let's move on. So let's get the affiliate plug out of the way. So support today's episode and visit the official NBA store Europe or Fanatics using affiliate link in the descriptions of the podcast. Shop the latest NBA gear and Orlando Magic merchandise, including jerseys, shorts, and t-shirts. They are available for international delivery. Use our discount code MAGICUK10 at the checkout for a 10% discount off your entire order, or use one of the live discounts that are available on the website. But please note, some explosions, dear God, no, exclusions. Some exclusions may apply. And you can find all the links on the website as well, orlandomagicuk.com. So moving on swiftly and avoiding all that. Magic news, let's get into it. We're recording today being the 17th of March, Thursday evening, ahead of the game with Detroit. We have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. Injury news, Jalen Suggs has been struggling with an ankle issue. He is out again, having left the Sixers game early. Didn't play against Brooklyn, as he's out for tonight's visit of Detroit, as is Chuma. And Wendell has been questionable a couple of times, and he is questionable again for this evening. It has been officially announced. Say again?
He's out. He's out.
He's out now, is he?
Yeah.
What a shocker. What a shocker that a team that are poor rebounding have been given a reprieve by our number one man in the paint being absent. Honestly, the game nobody wants to win. Well, there we go. So then finally, we've had the shocking official announcement that Jonathan Isaac and Bol Bol are both officially out for the rest of the season. So we can recap. We've played the Timberwolves. We won 110 to 118. We then played the Sixers and lost in, shall we say, controversial style, 116 to 114. And then we've also played the Brooklyn Nets and got absolutely routed, 150 to 108. So let's have a little talk about what we saw in the week. Start with Mo Bamba. He put up a really excellent game against the T-Wolves. Where's everybody on keeping him? Shall I start on this one? Shall I go with this one? I flick-flack from week to week, from day to day, game to game, on whether I think we should put money behind Mo or whether we go with Wendell as the 5 and work with what we've got and potentially in the draft at the 4 position. I think for me, Mo, we see some great flashes from him. And I thought the Timberwolves game, he was immense from start to finish, rebounding, he was scoring, he was shooting the 3, he was chasing back, he was working hard constantly, and his block ratio was fantastic. But there's then those games where he just sort of disappears and gets bullied out of things. For me, I don't want us to overpay him. If we pay him and it's a reasonable price and it's a team-friendly deal for us to be able to move him on if needs be, then I'm happy with it. So, guys, whereabouts are you? What's your thoughts? Are you in a similar position? Mikey?
I'm not sure. I'm like you. I'm not sure what flick-flacking is. I don't know what that was at the start.
You like that flipping him about, mate?
What do you mean flip-flop? But
yeah, flick-flack. Flick-flacks as well.
It's a right flick-flack.
Is that a northern thing?
It must be. Come
on.
It must be, mate.
I've heard.
Not as easy. Thanks, mate. Just
no worries, mate. Anytime.
Stitch him up. I'm not sure. I'm a bit like you. One minute you're thinking it's a bit like Aaron Gordon. You have those games. Yeah. Like, he might just have that little bit about him that if we can develop him into something else, then there's still hope for him. But I was looking at the numbers before we jumped on. So pre-All-Star break, Moe was averaging 10, 7.9 rebounds, 1.8 blocks, 46.8% from the field and 34 from three. And he's taken a little jump. He's now up to 52% from the field and 44 from the three-point line. And he's only averaging 12 points a game. Now, I know he's not exactly the focal point of the offense, but and Wendell's, for me, a much bigger influence for this team when the two of them are on the floor. But he has taken a jump. We have seen a lot more effort from him. The intensity's been there a little bit more. He's certainly certainly since Fultz has returned to the lineup and they've been playing together, he's been cut into the basket a lot more. He's not just sitting out on the 3-point line, and he's more active. I would still like to see, like, his rebounds haven't really moved before or after the All-Star break. I still think he should be a better rebounder than he is at the moment.
Absolutely.
Some of that's effort, but I'm not really sure, because there comes a point where, and we're going to talk about the guard rotation shortly, but there's going to come a point where management are going to have to decide what players they're going to move forward with, because you can't have 8, 9, 10 players, I would say, after next season that they're going to move forward. And I'm not sure Bamba is really going to play himself into maybe 4 or 5 players that you're going to move forwards with. I'm not quite sure he's ever going to reach that. But look, Weltman and Hammond look after their own, which we've seen in the past when it comes to returning free agents. We saw that with T. Ross and Vooch. I do think we're going to bring him back now. I didn't think that maybe a month ago. And we're fans. We get a bit emotional. We go up with the ups and downs. But I'm not sure management were ever unsure. I think they probably had a plan from the get-go, and they're probably sticking to that. So if he's coming back, I think that was always on the cards. If he doesn't come back, then I think they were just going to see how it plays out. I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't be mad against seeing Moe return next year, but I also think what we do in the draft this summer is going to play a part as well.
Gary, whereabouts are you, mate?
It's a real, I think with everybody, nobody's got a definitive answer on this. If you're Mo Bamba's agent, you must really be kind of shaking your fist at Wendell Carter Jr.'s agent for the deal that Wendell's got, because Wendell's deal's so good and he's played so well that you can't really go into a negotiation and say, I want the same as him or better. So I think any deal that comes to Mo has got to be less than Wendell. And that's going to be the measuring stick immediately for him as a big man, the same time period in the league. So I think there's that. There's a few questions. I think the first one is will he be happy to go back to coming off the bench? Because if Jonathan Isaac ever does get healthy, you would assume straight away he's the starting 4. If you look at the team, there's a legitimate question: is Mo better than Chuma? We don't know. I'm not 100% sure he is. I don't know. When he plays like he can do, he is, but consistently, I'm not sure. And then the big one is what happens with the draft. Like Mikey said, I think there'll be an offer goes his way, but it would be really interesting to me if we end up drafting Chet Holmgren, who is this unicorn, lightweight, big man who seems to have quite a similar build to Mo and can shoot the 3 and can do all the things that we heard about Mo. Where does Mo fit in Orlando? And I think that could damage his value as well. So I think there's a lot of question marks. Personally, I really like Mo Bamba as a character. Yeah. And he's the type of guy who you root for, you want him to do well. But, even in the last 3 games, you've seen all faces of Bamba, really. You've seen where you look at him and go, this guy's unreal. And then the next thing, he's playing 17 minutes and anonymous.
What was it against the Sixers? Was it 5 and 5?
Just looking at my notes. Yeah, 5 and 5 against the Sixers, and then he played 17 minutes against the Nets.
Yeah, he usually plays well against Embiid as well, in fairness, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he's had a good game against them offensively, defensively as well. Got a few, blocks, and I think him and Embiid are, pals, and they like to go up against each other. For me, I bring him back, but like what you guys have said, it's got to be on a team-friendly deal. You don't want to overpay and, scupper what we've done in terms of getting rid of bad contracts, etc. So, and as Gary's just said then, Wendell deserves more. So you'd like to see him paid, I don't know, 8, 9, possibly 10 at a stretch. But what Mo Bamba does well, he shoots the 3 ball very well for a 7-foot guy. He's also exceptional in terms of blocking the ball. For a big, he's in the top 10 somewhere. I haven't got the stats in front of me, but I just want to see him do a lot more in terms of screening, because he isn't one of the best screeners. He needs to possibly bulk up a little bit, screen better. You've touched upon the rebounding. So he's already got the shooting stroke. He's tall, long enough to get blocks. So, he's halfway there. So if you bring him back, you bring him off the bench, as Gary just mentioned as well, he's going to be playing against not starters. He's playing against role players. And what we saw against Minnesota, which was very encouraging, and what I want to see more of, is those lobs. You look at JaVale McGee, he's made a name for himself in the league. Yeah. He's had good contracts. He's won championships, and he's been that energy guy off the bench, just a nuisance, blocking shots here and there, and just getting those lobs. And when teams do that to us, it really annoys me when they get those easy lobs. And with Markelle coming back again, you boys have touched upon it, you've got a better passer at the point guard position, so it should free up Mo to make those back cuts and get those easy baskets. So for me, it's a no-brainer. You bring him back and just try and get him on as team-friendly a deal as possible.
I don't think you ever want to I don't think you ever want to let a player leave for nothing. I think that's part of the thinking. If we do re-sign him, is he might still be a long-term piece. Look, we're still kind of guessing. We still don't know what his long-term development looks like, but we've all kind of got our own ideas of what we think he's going to become.
I am going to be fair, and because you all know I've not been the greatest of Mo Bamba fans from the start. But I do think it's unfair that we're judging him as kind of a 4-year player or coming because he's had so much disruption to his career. I do think the centre position is probably one that you have to learn and grow into through with experience. So it's probably fair to put him as 2-year player, perhaps not even that. So I will say, I always try to be fair and level about things. So I've got no problem if we do bring him back. I just hope that, as I said, it's on a team-friendly deal, because I do think we have, as everybody said, seen a really decent jump from him this year. And I was surprised that he got so few against Philly because, as G said, he's had such good games against them in the past. Now, I've got to talk about this because you've got into it this week, Gary, haven't you, with talking about this next subject, the backcourt rotation and going forward, what's involved. So come on, mate, what's your thoughts? Opening night, next season, the rotations, assuming that we've made no trades in that department and everybody is injury-free. Well, talk to us, man.
For context, I made the tweet that we don't trade Cole Anthony. And I think I'm probably for Cole Anthony what G is for Markelle Fultz. So it's a bit of an interesting one in that. But I did put a tweet out saying, that this season, our best point guard has been Cole Anthony. And I think when you look at it, it's something you can't dispute. He has been better than Jalen. Markelle hasn't played enough. And RJ has been hit and miss and learning the position. So I did put that tweet up and it got quite a lot of interactions for my tweets anyway. And it was good debate with Magic fans. It was, for my money, the backcourt on the opening night next season, with all those factors taken into play, would be Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony. And the reason for that would be Markelle's going to get his minutes under his belt. We've seen the impact he's had on this team since he's came back. And I don't think anyone who watches Magic basketball with any regularity at all would say to you anything other than Markelle is a floor general and the upside is still there. And you do see those flashes of where you're like, this, you can see why this guy was a number one pick in the draft. And I think if he can get his minutes up, he can get his confidence back, because you've got to be, if you're him, you've still got to be thinking, I don't want to get hurt again. And really get an extended look at what his 3-point shot could be. And that's going to be the big question mark. But I think Markelle is a floor general, as a guy who can almost make you think as though you're watching the game in slow motion when he's going 100 miles an hour. Markelle would be starting point guard. I would put Cole alongside him. And my reasoning for that is, if you look at what Cole has done in Orlando this season, particularly before the injury, that's the best production of any point guard that we have had in a long time, in a real long time. And I think Greg Anthony was saying before on here, you're looking for windows, for glimpses, and we got an extended look of what Cole could be. Now, I think, and I know me and G had a bit of a chat about this via text last night, Cole's attitude is the best attitude we've seen from a Magic player for a long, long time, in terms of wanting to win, wanting to improve. I think if you had Cole sat here with us now, which one day you never know, and said to him, what do you want to do this off season? He would probably say, make my 3-point shot more consistent and be a better defender. Now, with some players, I would say, okay, that's probably means you're going to be sitting on the beach and you'll think about that in September. I could see Cole being the type of guy who would go away this offseason and think, okay, we've got a high draft pick, J.I.'s back, I'm playing for my place a bit. I am going to do those things, because he obviously took a leap from season 1 to season 2. So I've put those two there. And the reason why I haven't got Jalen and RJ, and sorry for ranting, is I think Jalen needs to shoot better. And it's a question of, do you want a better offensive player or a better defensive player alongside Markelle? And I think it's an offensive league at the minute. And in the last 10 games, you could say Jalen's 3-point shooting's down to about 14%, which tells you, even though the shot looks good when he takes it, it's still not hitting. So he's got to really sort that out, which I think he will. And I think RJ is very encouraging, but I can see him taking the T. Ross role, where he's going to be the guy who comes off the bench, gives you the energy, gives you the 3, and also is going to put his time into defending, which we will need. So I think for me, Jalen Suggs will be the one who might find himself as the floating point guard behind Cole and Markelle, if we were to go on what we've seen right now. And I just, cards on the table before I get any Twitter abuse, I like all 4 players, but I think the best 2 for me is Markelle and Cole.
Let's be honest, it's got to be that there's only 2, or likely there's only 2 starting. Yeah. So you've got to make a choice somewhere. So G, come on.
Right. So it's a tough one. So it's between the 3 players, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's Jalen, Markelle, and Cole. And Gary's made a lot of valid points, and we were going over it yesterday. Obviously, for me, Markelle, in what he's shown in the number of games he's played, the numbers are phenomenal in limited minutes, and I just can't wait for him to be playing over 30 minutes a game, and really putting the league on notice that he's back, and he is what he is. So Markelle is in. Here comes the problem. So what I like about Jalen's game, his defense, and an area I think Cole's a little bit lacking. So I'm not going to go with Cole. And I was speaking to Gary yesterday, and like he said, he'll be the first one to say he's going to get better. But I like his defensive intensity. And when he does have the ball, he looks to put it on the floor and finish at the rim, as opposed to putting the shot up, which are higher percentage shots. So for me, and I'm probably going to be on an island here, and Mr. Greg Anthony's probably not going to like this. I would start Jalen. That's not taking anything away from Cole. I love Cole to bits. But then you make Cole the focal point coming off the bench. Absolutely, he is number one coming off the bench. Give him the green light, fire at will. And that's just to shore up the defense. Like I said, I feel really awful saying this, but they're both fantastic players. But just give Jalen the edge just for that. But I mean, Cole's a better shooter. We've seen that, and he will get even better. I just go back in my head now. I'm just going back and forth, thinking, "Am I saying the right thing? Probably not."
Right, well, okay. I'll come to you in a minute, Mikey. I'm going to just turn the question slightly. Then, can you make an argument, or can you fit all three in as a starting unit, or does Jalen start but Cole finish?
Absolutely, yeah. You could make that argument. If you want offense, you go Cole. If you want defense, you go Jalen. It's a great problem to have. Let's be honest. You don't want. No offense. Luke Ridnow coming off the bench, and thinking, oh God, what are we going to get? It's great to have these players, and we love Cole and his interviews and everything that comes with Cole. And I hope he stays with the Magic until the end. And I want to see him lift that trophy with us. So, I bring him first off the bench, and I will say Jalen for now.
And then you'll dictate what the game dictates as to who is the finishing line. Cool.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mikey,
absolutely.
Let's hear your opinions, mate.
Well, I want to start by saying this is a much better position to be in than it was, say, 5 years ago, where we had Serge Ibaka, Vucevic and Bismack Biyombo. Everyone was debating about, we've got all these bigs and we don't know who to move forwards with. And now we're worrying about all these young players and we don't know how many minutes we could give them. For me, Markelle Fultz is the best guard on this team at the moment. And we've quite clearly seen in short minutes, in limited minutes since his return, how much influence he has on this team. You think back to the Philadelphia game, he scored 8 points, but I think he was plus 12, plus 13 in like 17 minutes. And the game changed when he was on the floor. And I would argue, like we'll talk about Philly in a minute, but I would argue we would have probably won that game had he not been on a minutes restriction and was allowed to play a lot longer, because it felt like we were in control of that game when he was on the floor. So for me, Fultz is quite clearly the best guard. And he's still got a lot of areas to improve. But obviously he can run the offense. He's got length. He can get into the lane. Really, really good finishing around the basket. He's got the size that he can defend as well. Which is why I think Cole Anthony is the best complement to him. So I'm going to stick with what Gary said, because we know one of Fultz's weaker areas is shooting the three and stretching the floor. That's one of Cole's stronger abilities compared to Jalen. Jalen, I think, shooting 21% from three this season. And I feel like he's got the form that he can improve on that as well. But Cole seems... he's a ready-made starter now. And there's no rush, is there? Because look, we're looking at the long-term development of all three players. So to me, there is no rush going, right, Jalen, here's the pressure of being the starting guard next to Fultz next season, when you can still bring him off the bench. You can bring him off the bench if we presume Gary Harris is going to return next year. So we've still got that vet alongside him that can help him. But I feel like starter caliber players right now, Fultz and Anthony are the best complement for one another. I really love Suggs as a prospect, and he's and I do really think he's going to be a very good player.
Yeah.
But there is no rush. You can bring him off the bench. Look, you can have your rotations. So you see minutes with Fultz and Suggs on the floor and Cole and Suggs on the floor together. We can have those rotations and mix lineups up and things like that. But Fultz has to start next season for me. And Cole deservedly should be as well.
Yeah. I'm not going to be any different. I love what Markelle has brought into this team since he's come back to the lineup. There's just a buzz of excitement as he comes on the court. And as has already been said, I fully agree. I think we'd have beat Philly with him on the court. Jalen, his drive, his intensity, his defence is already at an elite level. It's some of the offensive end that it starts to let it down a little bit, which, again, I do believe will come. Cole has struggled with efficiency recently. Not going to go against that. But at the start of the season, the first few weeks and months, we were seeing a player that, let's be fair, people were talking about him possibly fitting into the conversation for the most improved. And he's had a drop in efficiency. The injury really affected his flow. But we're starting to see him come back. So at this moment in time, I love the issue that we have, that we've got to sort of decide who we would go with. And I think that's fantastic for the team. I would still be Markelle starting and Cole. The other thing I'm really liking seeing, and we're going to see this again next year now, or albeit slightly in a different rotation, when we withdraw one of the starters, we're not seeing a drop-off in production. The team has got depth coming back, and it's a great problem for us to have, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So we now need to talk about what happened in the week, and it's a welcome return. Some would say long overdue for Ref Rant. Gee, it's a safe area. We're all friends. It's a therapy session for you, my friend. Talk to us about.
Do you know what though?
Feeling.
Do you know what though? When we were messaging each other, you and I stayed up for most of it. Gary, I think, stayed up the whole of it. And you stayed up the whole of it, actually. I stayed up to the end of the third. Mikey didn't watch it till the next day, did he? He was tamping on Monday. I thought he was worse than me, in fairness. Let's get to it. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the free throw disparity. If we're not allowed to go with a foot away from a Philadelphia player, then something's not right in the game. For the game, they shot 32 out of 37 free throws, with Embiid having 17 to himself and Harden having 15. So 32 out of 37 were between those floppers. We only shot 20 free throws, so that's 17 more opportunities for them. But on a positive note, in terms of the field goals, whilst we lost by 2, technically, we shot 41 out of 91. They shot more field goal attempts than us and, shot all those extra free throws. They shot 35 out of 92. So they took an extra shot. They got an extra 17 free throws and they beat us by 2 in overtime. So there's a lot of positive to take from that. So I don't know what I can say about the calls on these superstars, quote. They just seem to get absolutely everything. And then you get our guys getting hacked. The thing's most frustrating is the technical foul. Didn't Wendell... You're laughing at me. I haven't been watching you.
No, mate, no.
Wendell Carter gets teed up.
I actually thought you were going somewhere else when you mentioned Wendell.
So did I.
I thought you were going to mention my tweet.
I've got to give you some content, mate. You can talk about that in a second. But Wendell got teed up. He didn't even realise it was him. Jeff and David thought it was Chuma who got teed up. But then you got down the other end of the floor, you've got Joel Embiid slapping a ball on the floor, effing and jeffing, blue language to our American friends, and nothing, absolutely nothing. And you think, hang on a second, were you not listening to them? You just want it called the exact same way. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. And it wasn't even Mark Davis. So have you got the officials in front of you? I can't even remember who it was.
I can't. No, mate, I haven't. I've deliberately not looked at who they were. I don't need anybody else on the list of people I'm not a great fan of. So, yeah. Mikey, you were struggling with one or two of those decisions because, as G says, the text. We won't go into the language that you were using about it, but apparently it's produced by cows and in plenty in a field.
Well, just to clear it up, Rodney Mott, Kevin Cutler, and John Conley were the three officials, and they were BS. Is that the
Rodney Mott's normally all right?
Well, he wasn't that night, mate. All right.
No, I know. I know that. Don't have to tell me.
I've calmed down now, but I was in a mood after that game, as you could probably tell by one or two of my tweets, and some light-hearted banter with a couple of Philly fans online. But
what are they winning this year, Mikey?
They are winning F all, mate, this year. I just like Joel Embiid. I can't even say his name now. I'm doing a poll. Joel Embiid is a great player. James Harden is a great scorer. There's a difference, right? And I do not think any team that has James Harden as one of their main players is going to win a title in this league, purely because James Harden got the Rockets to. I'm going off on one now, ref rant. This is going to like James Harden rant, but I just want to clear up. He got the Rockets to conference finals once, threw Dwight Howard under the bus. They then traded for CP3, threw him under the bus because he couldn't get on with him. They then traded for Russell Westbrook, couldn't get on with him, threw him under the bus. And then when they had no other moves to make because they traded all their first round picks, he decided he wanted to end up in Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving then shown him up apparently in practice. I don't know if you've seen this at all, but apparently Kyrie embarrassed James Harden in practice and basically said, "You're washed up and you are average." And I think that was the start of the tension in Brooklyn. And James Harden, to save face, was like, "I want to leave." So James Harden is a great scorer, but I just don't think Philly are going to win anything with him as one of their top two players. Embiid's going to carry that team. They're in a better position now, possibly, than not having Ben Simmons. But they've lost their depth as well. But sorry, I'm going right off one there. But no, and we've always talked about, and Paul's talked about this with Harden for a long time. He flops. He's a cheat. I'm not going to call him a fraud, but there's a lot of play acting. All right, he's a cheat, and
that's what it is. It's what it is.
It just makes the game really hard to watch when you're watching two players go to the line for a combined 32 attempts in one game, just for little touch fouls here and little nothing calls half the time. It's infuriating to watch as an NBA fan, not just a Magic fan because they were playing against us. It's just a rubbish game to watch. And I just feel like when they get to the postseason, they're going to get found out when games are going to get called a lot more loosely and the game gets more physical. But that clearly helped them win this game. Refereeing calls, like Paul's tweet, Wendell got smacked in the nether
area.
Regions.
Yeah, the groin area. I didn't quite use that phrase though, did I? Mate, the only way the Embiid didn't get called for a foul on that one is that he could say he got all ball. That's the only way. He didn't specify whether it was the left or the right one. That was the only thing. But mate, how he got one foul the whole game, one call. As G's illustrated already, there was so many issues. There were pushes in the back. There was raking across hands, and he didn't get anybody in the face or anything like that. I'm not saying he did, but there was the Was it
in the head?
I think it was Embiid on Wagner, wasn't it? At the end, was it Embiid on Wagner at the end? G, the one that the 2-minute report called.
Yes. That's the one.
And had even 2 or 3 of these been actually called, the result would have been different. And I do think that game was a classic game ruined by poor officiating. I don't know if you've got anything else to add, Gary.
I think when you look at the outcome of the game, when it's against the Sixers, it's if people are wanting to lose, it's kind of on the... If you got that result before the game, you go, oh, that's how to lose. Instead of the Nets game where we just didn't turn up. But then when you watch the game and you see it unfold, it's like there was a pretty good case for us to win that. And it just comes back to the superstar calls. If you're sitting watching it on a small screen, which I'm watching this on a small screen in bed, and I'm like, that's a blatant foul on Franz Wagner. Like, anyone can see that when you're half asleep in the UK. I'm like, how can you not pick that out and go and make the call? And it's superstar calls. And I'll be honest, I don't think Embiid needs the protection that he got in that game.
No.
Because I legitimately think he has a very good case for MVP this year. He's been that good. And he doesn't need it, but I'm not going to argue with anything that was said about James Harden because it's just echoing what I've thought for a long time, what Mikey was saying in particular on this, where it's going to, anything that the Sixers get, I think the Sixers could win the title as it goes, but it's going to be from Joel Embiid. It's going to be Embiid who carries them to that. But the referee in that game, it was the whole superstar friends call. And I think the reaction at the end, it was Harden, I think at the end, where I'll not repeat what he said, but it was, put it this way, he was relieved that game was over because he knew they were in big trouble. They were panicking.
I also think, just coming back to where we were talking about Jalen or Cole, I think that the Philly bench thought that Cole's shot was good. Because the looks on their bench as that was released and it hit the rim, you could see, and as it bobbled out, as you've just said, there was so much relief, and I think there was a lot of disbelief that didn't go in, which is where we come back to the argument: is Cole a finisher?
Yeah,
but I agree with you. I think it was one of them games where you looked at before the game, Ada took a 2-point loss and on that's quality, absolute quality, well played team.
But not
as it was.
Unfolded. Yeah. And there was also 2 calls in that game where we made good buckets after we gathered and got waved off for and ones as well. Just a couple more in there.
Yeah. Roger, can I just add? Yeah. I just want to shout out the Amway Centre crowd really for last Friday's game against the Timberwolves and that game against the Sixers, because the place was rocking. And it really does make a difference to the team. To us fans watching, from over 4,000 miles away. So, long may it continue. And let's just get that place loud. And we'll be there in October just to help out a little bit.
And Patrick was in attendance as well.
Gary's there before. Gary's there giving you
of course, Gary is. Yes, he is.
Yeah. Against
Miami game, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, against the Heat, when I get my lifetime ban from the Amway served up.
So you please exit this way.
Me and Connell get thrown out of the Amway in the 3rd quarter or something. Connell all Stone Islanded up and that type of thing. He's got to defend himself.
One last thing in closing on Refran. I think it's important that we do make clear. None of us are saying that the Magic didn't foul. None of us are saying that a lot of those calls were fouls. Weren't fouls, sorry. A lot of those calls were fouls. What we're complaining about is the exaggeration and the disparity in the calls, that clearly what was being called one end wasn't being called at the other. But we're not saying that the Magic weren't actually making fouls. And I think that brings us to the next point that we're going to talk about. In the losses to the Nets and Philadelphia, both came in very different circumstances. But what are the positives and what are the learning lessons that the young team can take from those defeats? Mike, let's start with you.
Well, we certainly held our own against Philly, punched them in the mouth early in that game, and gave them a real run for their money in a team that was playing as well as they have been, and win. I think they've won 8-2 or something since Harden got traded to them. So they're obviously on a good run of games. Yeah, I mean, it's another. I mean, really, it's two examples this week. One where you can see us compete against a good team, but then at the same time, I also think, obviously, you don't want to get blown out week in, week out. But when you play a team like Brooklyn, who are obviously a contender as well, it also shows the young players like you've still got a lot of learning to do as well. I think it's a bit of an eye opener, a little bit of motivation for them to go, when we play the Nets next time, we're not going to lose by 42 and let Kyrie have a career night. Having that bit of pride, but also going up against great players and thinking, I want to do that. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a learning lesson in itself for players like Cole and Fultz, that they're young, they're developing well. We're happy they're on the Magic, but they've still got a lot of growing, they've got a lot of development, they've still got a lot of work they need to do in the off season to help not just elevate the Magic, but elevate their own games to the point that we can move forward with them over the next few years. So, like, there aren't a lot of positives you can take from a 42-point blowout, but I think if from a player's point of view, I think it's good motivation when that sometimes brings us back down to earth a little bit, considering we've been playing as well as we have been recently.
Yeah, a refocus. Time to, and hopefully we get a response tonight. We get to see the guys react to it. So, Gary, what would you take from it's more from the Philly game, I guess, than the Nets?
Yeah, I'll just say with the Nets game, I was watching it live and I got to the third quarter and I just in that now and I can't do this, because if it was any other team, I would have sat and watched Kyrie and just went, I'm going to just appreciate this. But it became painful, and there was obviously a Nets influence in the arena as well, which so it was a bit annoying. I think it's the play for me of Wendell. And I know we've made the case that said earlier on, you could have made a case in the opening part of the season where you could have said Cole, which I did, was a candidate for the most improved player through about 25 games. And I think since the All-Star break in particular, you look at what Wendell's been doing, and he's doing it night in, night out. He's more aggressive. He's playing at his size all of the time. And there was games that he put his shoulder through Embiid at one point, as though he just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened last season. And I don't think it would have happened on the Wendell I saw a couple of times for the Bulls. You'd have seen a glimpse of it, but we're seeing it all the time now. So for me, it's Wendell. Yeah. And I do think we've seen obviously more minutes for Markelle, and it's positive again what's coming there. And I think Cole's just starting to come back. He's just starting to get back to where he's positively influencing. Now, I know in the Sixers game during regulation he didn't shoot as well, but in the overtime he kind of took over. It was like cometh the hour, cometh the man, where I think he hit 3 threes in quick succession, and it was kind of like, okay, can we get this Cole back to see the season out? But I think it's just young players, and it'll be a lesson. And as you know, like Mikey said, it's not that won't leave them. They'll not get beat by 40 odd points again off Brooklyn.
Yeah, it stings pride, and they're going to come. The other thing, coming back to what you've just said, the thing I love about Cole is that even if he's having an inefficient night, he is still willing to put himself in that position to take another shot. He's still got the confidence in himself. He's still willing to back himself. I think he's just got to learn a little bit more with the shot selection, which is that's the thing with youth.
And we just say, Paul, I'm going to use a player who I think Grant will love, and I think you and Mikey might turn your nose up here, but if you looked at someone like Eric Cantona and you said, "Stop
right, being," end it there.
Mikey, you've got a Sunderland tie on behind you there. It's all good. But if you looked at Cantona and when he did the Kung Fu kick and when he came back, it was like a more a little bit neutered PG-13 Cantona, where he wasn't quite as aggressive, and he never quite was consistently that player again. And I think I hear the criticisms on Cole where it's like, he plays thinking he's Kobe Bryant type thing. But if you said to Cole, okay, Cole, you're not this at such a young age, stop, you would lose what Cole does. And there's potentially something there very special where it's like, you know what, let's just see. If Cole was 26 and was doing that, you would be going, maybe it's time to let somebody else have a go and calm down a bit. But what we've got now is a guy who's playing through it. And if he can find that efficiency and get back to where he was in the first, third of the season, all of a sudden you've got a very, very dangerous backcourt. And I think you don't want to blunt that edge and that competitiveness and that belief at such a young age. It's raw. Just look to harness it and encourage it rather than shackle it. And sorry for the Cantona comparisons, boys, but that was the best one.
When he was in a proper white shirt, he was brilliant. Less of a fan once he moved. He was still brilliant, but less of a fan once he changed colours.
I thought you might say that.
But changing the Cantona subject, I think one thing just to add to what Gary said as well, I think we all forget how good Cole started the season. The season's so long and it's been such a drag this year with all the losses that I think we forget what an influence Cole had earlier in the season.
Yeah.
G, where are you with the week?
Well, first of all, didn't Marseille wear white as well? So I don't know which white team you were talking about. The real white team.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I joke. No, I'm just going to go from a different angle. I agree absolutely with what the boys are saying. But for Coach Mosley, obviously, it's a learning experience for him as well. And to have a contender in Philadelphia coming into the building and running them, that close, obviously it's going to be an experience for him, timeouts down the stretch, drawing up plays, looking at mismatches, what we can do. The boys have mentioned Cole went off in overtime, and when we were up 5 with just over a minute to go or whatever it was, I was there thinking my prediction's going to come in this week. Wasn't to be. There we go. And then so the second night then against Brooklyn, obviously you just don't want a repeat of that. So he's going to get that experience from playing these, decent teams and learn from it. So learning experience for everybody. We hung around in one of them and the other one, it's as Mum said, there'll be nights like these. So there we go.
I mean, for me, the thing that I want to see the team take away and pick up on is that they've got to. It's probably better when you see it in rugby because it's so obvious in rugby. When you watch, every referee referees it differently, and there's certain fouls and there's certain ways that they call things, and as a team they have to adapt to how things are being called, and they didn't adapt against Philadelphia. We continued to do some of the same reaching fouls and the stuff that we knew was getting called. We continued to do, and we have to learn and adapt in game to those issues and pick up on that. And that's what I really want to see them take away. I mean, overall on the week, let's take the Nets game out of it. And we ran into a buzzsaw that night. And for me, regardless of where Brooklyn are, they are a contender. They are going to be a deep run playoff team for me. But we beat the Timberwolves. We pushed Philadelphia, who are a fancied team, all the way through extra time and could have won it with the very last shot. So it's a positive week. It's just those little things that they've got to pick up on and learn to adapt with. We've had worse weeks. We've got a win in there, so we've definitely had worse weeks.
Can I add one more to it? And I want to give a quick shout out to Moe Wagner because I don't feel like we've probably talked about enough this season. Yeah. And he was a guy that I wouldn't say not a fan of earlier in the season, but I wasn't expecting a lot from him, and I think he's developing into a really, really solid. Not solid, but somebody who's coming off the bench and doing a job for us. I mean, he had 17 and 11 against Brooklyn. He had 10 off the bench against Philly and was plus 11, I think, in that game. We've talked about how he's that sort of player you want on your team. He's a pest. He gets under players' skin, which we all like. But he's developed his 3-point shooting. He's physical. He gets under players' skin. He sets a little bit of an example for the rest of the bench players in terms of playing hard. And I just want to give Moe a shout out because I think he's been really, really good for us this season. He's been a nice surprise as well as his brother this year.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's gone from, you and I spoke about this, Mikey, and I think what we described it as was he's gone from being a player that we've kept around, we re-signed for a little bit of depth on the bench and probably a third option, but mainly there to support Franz coming into the team, to somebody who is a core member of the rotation, comes off the bench, gives you impactful minutes, and as a bonus, is there for his brother.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a real turnaround for him. And yeah, I quite agree with you, pal. Quite agree with you. So on to the predictions on the week ahead. So since last we recorded, the Magic have gone 1-2, beating the Timberwolves. That sees Mikey in the lead and at the 500 mark. 8-8, mate. Well done. G and I trail at 7-9. And Gary, we're going to have to start from next season with your predictions, mate, properly. Getting you into the league there with us, getting it in there. So we record next. We record next on Friday, the 25th of March. And between now and then, the homestand continues with we play Detroit tonight. Then play Oklahoma City Thunder 10 p.m. on Sunday. So a nice, friendly-ish UK tip again. Then we finish the homestand with a visit from Golden State Warriors on Tuesday, an 11 p.m. tip. And then we have a back-to-back game where we travel to Oklahoma to play Thunder again, and that's on Wednesday, the 23rd. Oh, it's a midnight tip Thursday here. So, boys, predictions of where these 4 games will go. Gary, let's go for you first, mate. What are you having?
I'll go positive. I think we'll go 3-1.
Nice.
So I think we will win tonight. And I think it'll bring a massive meltdown on Twitter afterwards from the tanking community. I think it's coming. I think we're at that stage now where I think people are counting losses. A friend of mine's an OKC fan. He's counting losses, and you're starting to see the tank gifts coming out and such. And you know what? Fair enough. It's everybody's fans of the Magic, and they want it in different ways. You know, and everybody has their different views. We saw that last year, and that's fine. But I just think we're going to be stinging. So I think we'll the game we'll lose. I think will be Golden State, but Steph Curry's out.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's interesting. It's interesting, mate. That's changed everything for me on this week. Yeah. So who are we going with next? G, come on, man. Let's hear yours.
Oh, mate, this is a problem.
Race for the wooden spoon with me.
Yeah, I know. The problem is my brother's an Oklahoma fan. So obviously I want us to beat them for, bragging rights and everything. So I'm going to go 2-2 and we will beat the Oklahoma City Thunder twice. Although it could be Detroit, but I just need to get that OKC. I need to get 2-0 over him so he can shut up for another 12 months,
Yeah, you forget this is his first meeting against OKC.
It is.
You forget that.
Yeah.
Mikey.
I'm going 3-1 this week.
Okay.
We are going to beat Detroit tonight, which nobody wants to win. I think we're going to split the series with the Thunder, and I'm going to say we beat the Warriors.
going to say, mate, I'm fancying us beating the Warriors. They're on a little bit of a slide.
Yeah, like
Gary's
Gary
says,
says,
at the minute.
Steph Curry's already out. Gary Payton Jr. is that little bit of a pest off the bench. He's out. Andrew Wiggins is day-to-day. Bielitz is day-to-day. So they may or may not be back for that. Steph Curry's obviously a big miss for them. But I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to separate myself from you and G this week. I'm going to give myself some daylight in the predictions for next week.
So I've either got to go for a 4-0 or a losing week.
Pretty much for a losing week.
I can't see it being a losing. That's the thing. I don't see it being a losing week. I genuinely could see us taking all 4. But I'm going to go 3-1. I think we win 2 of the home games and we win on the road in OKC and we lose to OKC at home. I think we beat Detroit. I think we beat Golden State. Thanks for the company, boys. To everybody, thank you as always for joining us, watching and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast and hit the notification button so as not to miss future episodes. Make sure to visit the website, orlandomagicuk.com. Latest news, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and Twitter. All can be found at Orlando Magic UK, and the links are featured in the podcast description. Possibly worth keeping an eye out for us this evening, popping up on a broadcast. You never know, maybe around during a bit of a Dante moment during the Detroit game. Fingers crossed. And so, until next time, from Mikey, Durant, Gary, and myself. Till next time, go Magic.